This is Cow Rock Mountain, and there is a giant rock in the middle of it. It is south of Low Gap Shelter, but I want to show it to you because there are copperheads under this rock. So there was one hiker there that said, hey, let's poke them and get a good picture, and not a good idea. So this is a mile 36 on the trail. All right, so there's a lot of blowdowns, particularly this one was one that was completely blocking the trail right after I left Low Gap Shelter. There was also a couple blowdowns before Low Gap Shelter, and this is as I'm heading Nobo. Must have been a storm or something come through this area, because there was quite a few blowdowns just around the shelter area, and apparently they were early blowdowns, or they had just occurred because the leaves were still green and the trail maintainers hadn't got to them yet. The really bad part about the blowdowns is, and them being there for a while, is that people go around them and they create new places in the trail, and so that just creates phthalates leave no trace, and creates erosion issues.
Okay, I'm about 20 minutes out of Low Gap Shelter. A lot of blowdowns, as I already noted. Pretty neat little bridge back there, or not bridge, but retaining wall that is hundreds of years old. It's probably built by loggers, because this trail is really wide, like a logging road trail. So it was probably built by loggers to get equipment in. Yeah. May not be hundreds of years old, but I'm sure it's back in the teens or 20s, whenever this area was completely logged. A lot of people don't understand that these trees in here are not first growth trees. They're huge, poplars and oaks, but predominantly the woods used to be chestnut trees till the chestnut blight. So they came through, and when the blight was apparent and they logged everything. I don't know if it's been logged more than once, probably not. But anyway, that's definitely what this is, a logging road. Get equipment or horses or whatever in here to pull the logs. Okie doke. Continuing on up the hill. Alright, so the trail's pretty grown up in this section too. A lot of times the bushes and stuff, weeds, impede across the trail. And in the morning like this, when there's dew on everything, you just wind up getting wet. That's another reason why I tend to wear pants. I don't really notice a huge difference in how hot I get, but I usually wear pants instead of shorts, so I'll probably take them off today. We'll see if I notice a remarkable difference in how I get hot or not. But right now they keep moisture off of my legs from the plants, which makes me itchy, and poison ivy that's maybe draping over into the trail. So I'll keep them on for now. Some hikers came through to get water earlier this morning, indicated that they had seen some bears. They weren't on the trail, they were right kind of trailing next to them, and eventually crossed over the trail. But so there are bears in here. It's like I'm coming to another blowdown in people, so I'll sign off for now. Well, every section has its green tunnels. This is definitely one of them. Walking through this rhododendron or Mount Laurel, whichever one it is. Just about busted it. Anything for you guys. Canopy's completely closed over. It's like it goes on for a while, but they don't ever last forever. But it's nice and cool back in here. Speaking of temperatures, I don't know, I guess in the 70s, pretty muggy right off the get-go. Alright, enough said. There's numerous springs that are not marked on gut hooks. This one's about 1.7 miles trail south of Chattahoochee Gap. It's flowing real well, so I'm surprised it's not marked. It's even got a place there coming out of a pipe. I know there's other springs marked that come out of pipes. So anyway, that's interesting that it's not on there, it being such a good spring. But there are water sources are out here that aren't marked. Well, I am working on my ascent up Blue Mountain now. And the trail is sometimes the soil, nice cushiony soil. In this case, it's rock. Nothing but rock through this part. So it can make it hard to get a purchase with your poles. And it's really hard to walk on, but it's the trail. If you look up ahead of you, you can't even see the trail. You just follow everybody else. Alright, I'm going to get back in touch with you when I hit Blue Mountain Shelter. I should hit that first. Going to stop for lunch. See you then. Alright, this is Blue Mountain Shelter. Just got here. It's about sometime around 1 o'clock, which is about the time I started yesterday. So I think I've covered about 7 miles, and I got about 7 more to go. So I got plenty of time to cover the same mileage, or half the mileage that I did yesterday. So that'll be a welcome relief to get to that shelter. It's Tray Mountain Shelter. Spare cables privy here. Plenty of tent sites. Word of warning about the bear cables. They are not mouse cables. They got these little devices on them that are supposed to stop the mice from climbing on them. See that little disc-shaped thing right there? And also got some type of metal there on the cable that you pull up, but they don't have it on the secondary cable where you hook it into the tree. So the mice aren't dumb. They go up that cable, and they got in my bag last night. And of course I had my gorp in it, but I had my bag on the cable. Had gorp in a plastic bag on an outside bag. And there's where they made a mess out of it. So they got all my gorp and chewed a hole in the bag, even though they could have just got right down in there. But nah, let's just make a new hole. So the worst part about it is that that's where I put my water bottles, and I'm sure they peeped and pooed in there. So now every time I put my water bottle in there, till I can get that cleaned and sanitized, I got to worry about getting mice yick on me. Anyhow, it's a nice shelter. It says it's a 7-man. I bet you can get more than that in here. It's got a lot of pegs up there on the wall to hang stuff to dry. Some pegs here. I've got my dirty water bag hanging there, getting ready to water up. I think the coolest thing about it is I'm sure in the winter this is just a killer view. looking out through there. You can't really see much of anything now, but anyway, this is Blue Mountain Shelter. Alright, so I'm packed up here at Blue Mountain Shelter, getting ready to leave. Going on about 8 miles to the Trey Mountain Shelter. This is a really nice shelter. I know I've showed it one time, but one thing that I don't understand why the powers that be is it being this close to the southern terminus where everybody's coming through. It's only a 7 to 8 man shelter. Why don't they double deck it? You know, because you got to expect huge crowds starting for through hiker season. So I'm surprised. But it's a really good shelter. Plenty of bench space. Got a table for cooking. It's got a privy. Water supply is just short of the shelter. So, and it's got tent sites. All right. I'm getting to repeat myself. So, heading on out. Well, I'm coming off Blue Mountain down into Unicoi Gap. And it's a very steep descent, which of course means it's going to be a very steep ascent into Rocky Top. And my knee got to bothering me. So for the first time in 4 trips since I've been bringing my knee brace, I put it on. So hopefully that's going to take care of it. Just hurt me on stepping down. I did take some vitamin I. Hadn't had one since this morning, so hopefully between those two, it'll take care of it for the rest of the trip. In any case, very steep descent down into Unicoi, and very rocky, very rooty. But we are getting on down there. All right, Charlie Mike. So this is what I mean by steep ascent. Just a lot of rocks and roots. And I got a feeling it's going to look like that heading Nobo coming out of it. If it is, it will take me a while. I can assure you.
Alright, so this is me at the second, or actually third, of the 3 AT plaques cast by Warner Hall. Or actually, it wasn't cast by Warner Hall, but Warner Hall was the president of the Georgia.Appalachian Trail Club, and he thought it a good idea to post these plaques to kind of commemorate and publicize the trail. So there's one at the southern terminus that was placed there when it was moved from Mount Oglethorpe. Of course, that's at Springer Mountain. There's one placed at Mountain Crossings in a boulder, and then this one is at Unicoi Gap. So they're all still there, were placed back in the 30s, and still all in good shape. Most of the gaps have a trailhead sign. Once you get past the trailhead and into the woods a couple hundred feet, you usually have a signage there that kind of gives you some mileage to the next big point. And it tells you what gap you're at. So if you're coming down the trail into the gap, you know where you're at. And a lot of these signs along this section are new, or relatively new, so the Trail Club's been doing a good job. The top of Trey Mountain really doesn't have any great views. It's probably due to the summer, I'm sure, and when there's no leaves on the trees in the winter or early spring or fall. These would be some gorgeous views, but really didn't have much of a way to look out. And then when I got to Trey Mountain Shelter, actually there was several campsites there, and there was one place you could look through the trees and see a pretty good view. And got a great sunrise in the morning, even though the sun, this is more pointing north west, more toward the north. Couldn't see the sun come up, but it did have some great cloud formations, and I'll show that on the next video. But in any case, didn't have any wide open views other than this one right here. And then the shelter itself says it's a 8-man shelter, so that's about accurate. There was a guy there when I got there already, and he had built a fire and was trying to dry clothes out. It got wet, and he wound up burning holes or melting his clothes. He had claimed he started from Springer, actually claimed he had walked all the way from the last MARTA station in Atlanta to Springer Mountain, picking up equipment along the way. So sounds possible, plausible, not sure, but in any case, you meet a lot of colorful folks with colorful stories on the trail. The other two folks here had been hiking with him, but they had gone into town for supplies, and they got in about 2 o'clock in the morning. And of course, so that was making a lot of racket for everybody, but I wasn't getting a lot of sleep that night anyway, so that really wasn't that big of an inconvenience for me. So anyway, it was a great trip. Looking forward to my next one. There is one last segment of this trip, and that'll be coming up on the next video. If you got anything out of this video or you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. Hit that big old red subscribe button, or at the end of the video, hit my face. And as always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out there.